Welcome to today's edition of the Reidsville Chamber of Commerce News and Views Show. I'm your host, Diane Sawyer, President of the Reidsville Chamber of Commerce. Today's show, we have a Meet the Ambassador and Chamber Champion edition, and we have with us a very special guest, a very good friend of mine, Cecil Cottrell with Mount Jubilee Ministries. Welcome to the show, Cecil.
Well, thank you, Diane. It's so good to be here. It's always good to be with you, to talk. We've carried on many conversations over the last decade almost.
Oh my gosh, yes.
It's hard to believe it's been that long, but it truly has been. And I'm just honored to be here and excited to share whatever I can to our viewers to endorse the Reidsville Chamber of Commerce and Visitor Center. And of course, I'm going to talk about Mount Jubilee Ministries. You've got to expect that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, we have opportunities to catch up here and there, kind of just quick and informally, but we haven't done this formally in some time. So there are a lot of things that have probably changed. There's probably a lot of new viewers. So let's just start with the basics. Tell us about how almost a decade ago some things happened and where we are.
Well, sure. The Mount Jubilee story is something that I love to share. I mean, I often tell people, and of course everybody that knows me says that I love to talk, but it's more than talking. In my mind, it's testimony. And I think I could testify about Mount Jubilee Ministries and what has happened in that organization since its inception in 2005, forever and ever. But in reality, I got involved in, I was thinking about it just recently, and I got involved with the organization in 2009 when I went to the 4th Camp Jubilee as a camp counselor. I took my friend Josh there, and we just love camp life, and that's when I began getting involved. But it was a few years later that I found myself as the board chair with a commitment to move that organization a little bit further than just a 1 week of a year summer camp program. And that's when this fine young lady and staff member of the Chamber of Commerce, Denise Brady, heard the Mount Jubilee story at the YMCA. And she said, Cecil, you need to be involved with the Chamber of Commerce. And I took her at her word, met with her, became a member, and that is without a doubt the best step that I think Mount Jubilee Ministries has ever taken as far as platform is concerned, because the Chamber of Reidsville has been the most amazing opportunity for us, Mount Jubilee Ministries, to really share what we're doing.
I have to tell you, your story is one of my favorites, and I was just talking about this on the phone last night to another nonprofit who was just going on and on about, we just had a recent event, how they made a ton of great connections, and I said, you and Mount Jubilee are my two favorites because, and I said, I mean that, and not, like I shouldn't have favorites, right?
Sure.
But what I mean is, it's your intentionality, the way that you go about being involved and engaged in the community, and that your success stories are built on the fact that you guys are going out, sharing the message, and looking to just be genuine and say, this is what we're doing. And then people just come alongside you, and it's just amazing. And not tooting the Chamber's horn, but tooting the horn of this amazing organization that's made up of so many people, including people like you, who are ambassadors and board members and chamber champions. So thank you for your involvement and how you give back to us.
Well, you're more than welcome. And again, it's a win-win for everybody. Being an ambassador for the Chamber of Commerce has been one of my favorite roles within the community. You may have noticed over the last 12 to 18 months, my attendance at various functions has probably been a little more limited, and that's because of the exponential growth that we've seen within Mount Jubilee Ministries, and time is just critical, you hardly have enough time to do everything that you want to do. And that's the case for everyone. But things are changing a little bit within the organization. I want to talk more about it, about the organization and what we do. But I do think that I'll be able to commit more time to the chamber in the near future.
Well, I'm very excited about lots of things, but on a little more sad note, and just we tend to get emotional sometime on these shows, but it does make me really sad. Since our last formal update, there was a little bit of a change in that we lost somebody who was very crucial to camp and the start of all of this stuff. And I think that we owe her just that piece of saying that Miss Loretta was amazing. And for me, starting at the chamber, I used to go over to a piece of cake and just sit and talk to her and Andy. And I had gone to school with one of their sons. And I just truly believe the Lord works in all of these ways to connect all of us and thread all of us through our lives and each other. As we look back, it's hard to see it when it's happening, but as you look back and you go, oh, that's why. And it's going to fast forward us to you wanting to talk about the other stuff. But
well, you threw a curveball there. You blindsided me.
I'm sorry.
And that's okay. Loretta and Andy Burgess, I walked into the Reidsville Bible Chapel in 2002. We were looking for a new church family, and we went in there. And I honestly think that it was the first Sunday that I attended that church in 2002 that they invited me to go to Sunshine Camp in Beattyville, Kentucky. That is a camp in one of the poorest parts of the country. And it's a Christian camp, and they have 2 weeks of summer camp each summer for adults with special needs. They invited me to go out as a counselor, and I went, and I'll surely tell the story one last time. No, not one last time, but one more time. Tuesday night that week was talent show, and Miss Cookie went up on the stage, and she sang "I'll Fly Away" in a way I'd never heard it sung before. And I knew then that my life had been indelibly changed. I continued to take kids from our church out to Sunshine Camp, but again, it was for years, 6 or 8 years probably. But it was Andy and Loretta that reached out to me and invited me out there. Loretta did pass, I think, back in June, early June, maybe just 2 weeks before our camp season for this year. And it's a void. There's no question about it. Her testimony will ring out for years to many, many, many people. She touched the lives of so many young people, and she had a purpose and was very intentional to minister to adults with special needs. They must be included in our society. And we all know that typically over the decades, that population has often been pushed to the side. Well, Andy and Loretta Burgess have been the advocates for that population like no one else could possibly be. Ministered out in Beattyville, Kentucky for over 40 years, 2 weeks every summer. They were the they and 2 or 3 other families were the founders of Mount Jubilee Ministries over in Forsyth County in 2005. And again, my involvement began in 2009, and they, I guess, saw something in me that I didn't know I had, but they asked me to be a board member and then to chair the board. And again, I said, sure, but let's do more than we're doing.
Yeah. And I have seen the exponential growth and the things that you have been able to do, and it's truly amazing. And I'd never really been touched by the population,
right,
because I just hadn't had a personal experience other than my background in public health education and some of the things that I had done throughout my internships and different things. But recently have a family member of a family member, and I've continued to say to them, have you checked out Mount Jubilee? Do you know
nice.
what your plan is for them? And right now, I mean, he just turned 5 this week. And so they have a really long road of trying to figure things out and work through it. And it amazes me that we have such a tremendous resource right here in rural Rockingham County that I've never seen in any other place that any of my friends or family live. It blows me away what you've been able to do.
Let me just speak to that very quickly, because when Mount Jubilee was founded, the founders wanted to provide a summer camp experience, but they also wanted to provide critical and emerging. They wanted to meet the critical and emerging needs that were arising that families needed to know about. The parents of this population are tired. There's no question. It's 24/7. They hardly have time to research anything. And so Mount Jubilee has always wanted to be a supporting arm to the families. And it doesn't matter to us, while we mainly serve at camp, folks 13 and older, and in our day programs, folks 18 and older, we would want nothing more than to speak to families of newborns, of 5-year-olds, of 10, 11, 12-year-olds, because they need to know the direction and the steps to take to best provide for their child throughout their lifetime. And it starts, like you said, at a very young age.
Yeah, because there's a lot of things that are the same when they're children, right? I mean, they can go to school and they can do, there's all these things, but then it's like you said, just like 13 comes, and then 15 comes, and then 16 comes, and then 18 comes, and then it's like, okay, now what? And so that's where you guys come in.
I'm going to jump right in, because what a segue into who we are and what we do.
Yep.
Again, Mount Jubilee was founded to provide a summer camp experience. Those 14, 15-year-old campers, all of a sudden they were 18 and 19, and all of a sudden they were 20 and 22, and camp continued to grow. It started with 5 campers and 6 volunteers. When Josh and I started going, there were probably 18 or 19 campers, and it kind of leveled off. It kind of leveled off at 20 or 25 campers. And again, we wanted to do more. So one of the first things that we did was began to grow Camp Jubilee, and we were able to do that because we found the Betsy Jeff Penn 4-H Center right here in Rockingham County. A very accessible camp for our special friends who sometimes have difficulties walking and navigating hills and things of that nature. So it's absolutely an amazing facility for our camp. One thing that I love to share with anybody I talk to about Camp Jubilee is this. Parents tell us that their child talks about Camp Jubilee from the day they leave camp until the day they come back the next summer. And once I began to experience my friend Josh on a daily basis, I can attest to that. They literally do talk about Camp Jubilee. It's that much of a joy. So as the Mount Jubilee leadership began to think, what should our next steps be, we recognized that year-round day programming would be an essential and a successful program to start. Not a lot of people know this, and we're not gonna camp out here, but there is Medicaid funding through local MCOs, managed care organizations that provide services through numerous service providers throughout our county and throughout our state. But that money doesn't go very far. It reaches less than half of the adult population. So we recognize that would be a good place to start. We developed a business plan. We launched our first program here in Reidsville in 2019. December of 19, 3 months before we and everybody else shut down for COVID. We reopened a year later, probably in April, and it's been game on ever since then. So since April of 2001, we have grown our Reidsville program. We have launched a program in Winston-Salem, and we have launched a third program in Greensboro. We're serving probably 45 to 50 families throughout the Piedmont in that day program scenario. And what that looks like, Diane, is the parents are able to come and drop their kids off at 8:30 to 9 o'clock. They stay until 4:30. And it's a day of great, just to see the excitement on these kids' face when they arrive each morning is worth every bit of effort we've ever put into it. And the His Path day programs are, it's hard to really know how to describe it, but it's just to be in the presence of these innocent ones that aren't concerned about the stock market or the economy, want nothing more than to glorify God, and want nothing more than to learn and express themselves and to grow and to just utilize their gifts to the best of their abilities. So we started with a curriculum-oriented day program. A year or two later, we were researching best models, best practices. We found an organization in Texas. It's called Brookwood in Georgetown. Encourage our viewers to look that up if you have a chance. But when we went down to visit them, I shared with their director what we were doing, and she said, "Oh, that's great. You've got a wonderful service program." And I'm like, yeah. She said, "But have you ever thought about allowing them to serve others?" And I'm like, "Well, we do Meals on Wheels, and we do go to Lot 2540, and we do work downtown Reidsville and pick up things." She said, no. Utilizing their God-given gifts to create. And I'm like, wow. And she then introduced us to their model of social enterprise, or a vocational program, if you will. And what that looks like is their citizens. We call our special friends and participants His Path heroes. Mm-hmm. They call theirs citizens. But their citizens come into the day program, and they have enterprise models and recipes set up to where they begin to do greeting cards, for example, or they might make candles. In different programs, different times, they've got about 13 to 15 different small enterprises that they focus on, and their creations are absolutely amazing. From charcuterie boards, acrylic poured charcuterie boards, to candles, the best pecan pie you would ever want to taste in your life, all of which is available on their online store. So I just encourage you to visit that. Lord willing, in due time, we will have that same model here. We have introduced it, and our heroes began early in the summer to produce or to create and produce greeting cards. I am apologizing to everyone and beating myself up right now that I didn't bring some to display. They are amazing. And we're going to be introducing the Christmas cards to our heroes, and they will now begin making Christmas cards that we'll be able to sell and take that money and reinvest into the program to help keep costs low.
You know what my favorite part about all of that is? It's the purest form of love that exists on planet Earth.
It is.
And then being able to put that pure love back into greeting cards and Christmas cards and the way they interact. We love to interact with the heroes. We're very excited about something that we have coming up that we're going to work together on. And, you have reached, I believe, a moment of You are really good, and you've been titled the executive director now for how many years?
6 or 7 years,
because it
probably.
transitioned
Since
from
2016.
Yeah,
Yep,
and
that's what it
so
was.
you have reached a point where, and you're still trying to go visit the grandkids and,
Oh, yeah.
and live life and do things. And you're very, very good at the development piece. And I know that that's where you have been wanting to transition. So you've got some news to share with us, I believe.
I do have news to share with you, and it's exciting, and I'll probably get emotional, but I'll do the best I can. For some time, I have recognized that I am a retired probation officer. I worked for here in Rockingham County for 28 years, but I've realized that the Lord put me in this position for a reason. I asked Him for it. I honestly did. I prayed, Lord, use me in a way that's different, and use me in a way that I don't expect you to use me. And years later, I recognized that being the executive director of this expansion for Mount Jubilee Ministries was the answer to that prayer. And I have now begun praying several years ago, Lord, find a successor for me, because I have felt like for a couple of years that I was in uncharted waters for me. I know that I was in uncharted waters. We began hiring people. You've got to have staff to run these day programs. And we've got, I think, 5 or 6 full-time staff. We have another 10 or 12 part-time staff. The organization has grown. There's no question about that. And I recognize that I've kind of outrun my past coverage. So I made it very clear to our board of directors back in June that the time had come. And our board chair, Chris Phillips, took that to heart. And he began putting some things together, and our executive committee began to develop job descriptions, and we posted the job. And that was really exciting. We received applications from all over the country.
Which is awesome.
It was amazing. And, you know, when we got those applications from outside of North Carolina, or our geographic region, I intentionally emailed and said, this job's in Reidsville, North Carolina. Are you interested in making a move? And each and every one, probably a dozen, said absolutely. So what we did, and this is exciting, we narrowed down 20 plus, 25 plus applications to 6, and a screening team did that, and then we presented that to the 5-member search committee, and all 5 of them individually picked the same 3 applicants to interview. Well, I'm going to go back a little bit, Diane, and tell you that, and it just reiterates the value of the Chamber of Commerce. I try to go to events, and you had the Chamber Night at the Grasshoppers, I think in June, is that right? May or June? And I was there, and I was trying to do my networking and speak to as many people as I could involved with the Chamber and from Reidsville. And I walked down to speak to one of your board members, I think, Eden Combs, and she asked about Mount Jubilee Ministries, and I told her that, you know, I was really hoping for a transition soon. And I said, keep your ears open, eyes open, and she, if you know of anyone, and she just went like this, she went, and I said, you're kidding. There's no way she would be interested in this job. Well, one thing led to another. I met with that young lady several times, 3 or 4 times, extremely interested, wanting to do kingdom work, wanting to do a work that would make a difference and impact lives and impact our community. We met with a consultant, the leadership of MJM did, and said, this is what we've got going on. Should we hire her or should we post the job? He said, well, you have all the liberty in the world to hire her straight out. Said, but if you want to post, do. And we decided it would be best for the integrity of the position and everything else to do the posting. Well, of course, this young lady made the final cut, not because of who she is, not because of that pointing, but because of her resume, her background, her experience, her leadership skills, etc. So I'm just really happy to share with you and our viewing audience that Jessie Mehta, your board chair,
My board chair.
the board chair of the Chamber of Commerce, has accepted the position of our next executive director of Mount Jubilee Ministries, and we could not be more thrilled with that selection.
She is a truly amazing individual, and I am so happy for you and so happy for her, so happy for our community, so happy for your organization. Selfishly happy that she won't have to go away from the chamber because she's taking a new role.
True.
Which she is rolling off as board chair, but she'll be our past chair, and she'll obviously continue because we have had a long-standing relationship, and we have loved having you as an ambassador. I hope you're able to continue doing that.
Absolutely.
We're very excited to have her in this new role. But it's just, it's like I said, when you look back and you think about all the ways that things have been woven together over time. She has just recently helped us kind of post-pandemic reform, tighten up some structure and some policy and procedure because everything's different. As a small nonprofit, everything is different for us post-pandemic. We went after flexibility for employees, and we went after things that were going to make everything better. And so I just think it's the best thing ever. I'm so excited.
Well,
it's like I want to shout it from the rooftops, but it's not my news, so I'm just...
Well, it's everybody's news. I mean, the city of Reidsville, the chamber, everybody has embraced Mount Jubilee Ministries. And, you know, I know we're running out of time, and it's good because I don't want this to go, I don't want to expand on this too far, but we've wondered for years, where will we invest? And the city and of Reidsville and the chamber partnered together for the Betting on Reidsville meeting series for the last 4 or 5 months, and I've attended all of those. We've looked at land throughout, and I'm just happy to say that we're looking at an 11-acre parcel here in Reidsville that it's actually in the city limits. It's at a very busy intersection, and it's there that we could possibly put a retail shop, a retail nursery with greenhouses, housing, maybe even a doggy daycare if our city ordinances change a little bit. And that'll be a place for our heroes to be included in our society and make a difference in our lives and the lives of many others. There's 2 taglines I want to leave with us. Mount Jubilee Ministries exists to help change the way the world views adults with disabilities. And our His Path programs are a place where adults with special needs contribute to the world.
I could not have wrapped it up any better, Cecil. So thankful for you, for your organization. We didn't even get to talk about, we did talk a little bit about camp. You had an amazing annual fundraiser where y'all hit and exceeded again for how many years in a row your goal?
Well, I just hope your producer will give us a few extra seconds.
Yeah, I think we got just a couple minutes.
We started raising funds 8 years ago with our first annual Family Fun Walk, $30,000 goal. We've increased it, surpassed it each year. Last year's goal was $100,000, and we surpassed it. And it was a real leap of faith to double that goal for 2023. And that's what we did. And we can happily say 2 weeks after, still counting money, but we have exceeded $213,000 for that Family Fun Walk. Back to Camp Jubilee. We have maxed out our camp at 53 campers, and that's amazing. The promise that I made at Camp Jubilee is that we'll have 2 weeks of camp next summer. I need help. I need help in securing the volunteers to come out. Homeschool families, college groups, high school groups. get in touch with Mount Jubilee Ministries for camp counseling, Camp Jubilee counselor positions for next summer, because we need you to help make that happen.
It's amazing.
It is.
Thank you. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for being an ambassador. Thank you for all the things, and what an awesome update. So,
well, I want to thank you again, Diane, for your leadership within the Chamber of Commerce. I think I've been pretty close by ever since you came. Maybe a couple years you had been here, but you've done an amazing work here, and we appreciate all that you and your staff does to make Reidsville a better place. Make Reidsville a place where people would want to come and invest.
thank you.
You're welcome.
It's a great show. Thank you, Cecil.
You're welcome.
All right, folks, that is it for this edition of News and Views. As always, you can find us in downtown Reidsville at 140 South Scale Street, or on all of our social media channels, or online at www.reidsvillechamber.org. We'll see you real soon.